So hello, everyone. You're very welcome to the Globe Air Quality Campaign teacher training session tonight. This is being recorded and just ask you all to keep your microphones muted if you can. There will be a Q&A after this session and you are more than welcome to contribute there. But if you have a question right now, you can put it into the chat box or at any time during the session. And we can try and answer the questions as we go in the chat box. And then also any other ones we can keep until the end. What else? This is a very brief overview. There is a really detailed teacher's guideline document that has been shared. So if you have any further questions, they're probably going to be answered in that document. But if you don't find your answer there, or you'd like to ask a specific question to the team, we're always here to support you either on the WhatsApp or by phone either. So please don't be afraid to do that. Okay, so next slide. So I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the GLOBE program already, but just in case you're not, GLOBE stands for Global Learning and Observations to Benefit the Environment. It is an international science and education program. It is sponsored by NASA in the States. So all the protocols that we have in GLOBE are NASA developed protocols. In Ireland here, we are sponsored by the EPA. So they're our main sponsor. And then also just to mention that like GLOBE is a great community of really dedicated, passionate people teaching a range of citizen science activities across many different spheres. Okay, so next slide, Orla. Just jumping a little bit ahead right now, just wanted to give you the heads up that we'll be recruiting for our 2026 campaigns in October. So if you do want to take part in a campaign next year in the spring, winter or spring, the Climate Resilience Rainfall and Flooding campaign will begin in January, and the River Ecosystem campaign will begin in March. They're both great campaigns. The first one focused more on measuring rainfall, and the latter then more on going to a local river and assessing the health of that river ecosystem. There is a QR code here. So if you'd like to use that, there's a form there and you can express interest in joining those campaigns. And then we will send you an email as soon as registration is open. So next slide. Okay, so here for the 2025 campaign, we again have had over 200 schools sign up. So absolutely, thanks a million to everyone that signed up. And I know this is an extra activity on top of your usual workload. So we really are grateful, and the EPA is very grateful too. Here is a map showing the location of almost all of the schools that have signed up. So you can see we have a good spread again across the country. And it's great to see that because that provides us with widespread information on the current state of traffic-related pollution at school. So really it's fantastic effort on behalf of teachers, and I just want to say thank you, and I hope you enjoy the campaign. So right now I'm going to pass you over to Orla, and she'll run through the basics of teacher training.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Aileen. So like Aileen has said, we're just going to do a kind of a brief overview. So if I'm going too fast or anything, please put it in the chat, and at the end you can ask questions either. So the goals of our air quality campaign, we have produced these resources and stuff because obviously we know that you're all very busy. So we want to help you out with that. And then why are we interested in air quality at all? It's to collect data and give it to the EPA. They are interested in the air quality around the country, and schools are a great way of measuring that. So we want you to get as active and hands-on with your kids as possible, and to take it as far as you can, as you want, as you're interested in. That's one of the main things about our GLOBE campaigns, that the basics are very anyone can do the basics of the campaign, and then you can take it as far as you want. Or if your students are particularly interested in a particular area, you can tailor it that way. So we'll go on now. So the air quality stats. This is our 11th campaign this year. When GLOBE Ireland first kicked off back in, when it was re-kicked off in 2019, it was just the air quality campaign that they were doing, and now we have the 4 campaigns this year, but it's our 11th campaign overall, so that's our long running one, and I think that's kind of what we're most well known for at the moment, and it's our largest campaign. We have 206 schools, I think, registered for this year, so that's fantastic. Some of the resources, so I've said it in the group chat and on email. everything is linked in the teacher's guide, all of the different resources. So we have a selection in PowerPoints. So these screenshots here are from the intro to air quality PowerPoint, which we would recommend doing with your students at the start. And this is just kind of a description of what air pollution is and what air quality is. And it's not specifically about our tubes or specifically about the campaign. So even if you weren't doing the campaign, this would be a good resource to use with students just to teach them about pollution. And we have it available for primary schools and for secondary schools. You can, of course, tailor it yourself. You can leave out slides or add in anything you want. So I'm going to just do a quick whistle-stop tour about air pollution with you guys as well right now. So all of this is included in those intro slides. As I'm sure you're all aware, pollution is essentially bad things that shouldn't be there and that harm us or animals or plants or whatever. So in air pollution, it's particles in the air that are harmful. There's different air pollutants such as PM 2.5, that's particulate matter, and NO2, nitrogen dioxide. For this campaign, it's nitrogen dioxide, the NO2 that we measure. And that's a traffic related pollutant, which I will come to in a moment. But air quality, it's a measure, it's a number that kind of assesses how much pollutant is in the air. So NO2 is what we're looking at here. And like I said, it's a traffic related pollutant. So it's one that we can change, that we can reduce if needs be. Well, not if needs be, we want to reduce it, but it's one that we can kind of work towards reducing. With cars, if parents are like idling as they're waiting for their kids to come out to the car, that's causing this NO2 to rise, which is reducing the air quality around the school. So this campaign is to show us what the air quality is. Maybe it's perfect. Maybe you're in a very remote rural location and there's not much traffic and it's really low and that's great. Or maybe you're in the inner city and it's quite high and we would like to reduce that to make it healthier. So yeah, there we go. It's worse in cities and along busy roads. So then this slide is in it. Now, obviously we don't want to worry the kids too much. And especially if the school is in like inner city, there's only so much you can do. You know, if it's on the side of like a motorway, the school, like you can't really reduce the traffic along the motorway. So we don't want to scare them too much, but these are just some of the impacts that bad air quality can have on people, both children and adults. And there are things that we can do to reduce it. So again, we're not trying to worry the kids too much. So again, depending on what age of your students, you might want to, you know, go a little bit easier with these stats. But yeah, it's just showing that it is like a real problem. The EPA obviously can't measure the air quality all around the country, versus that's why they get citizen science and that's why they fund us to run our citizen science campaigns. And I think one of the other good things about our campaigns and why schools and students and teachers find them so good and effective is that the students love to think that they're contributing like important data to real scientists, that they're not just doing this like for the sake of it. It's not just to pass a test or whatever. It's real data that they're contributing to the real world. So that goes down well, especially when they hear that like we're funded by NASA. The air quality data doesn't actually go to NASA, but with their other campaigns, the data that they submit is used by NASA scientists, and that's pretty cool. Okay, so now specifically onto this campaign and what you guys have to do. So what we're measuring is the nitrogen dioxide, which I've mentioned, and it's a traffic-related pollutant which can negatively impact human health. Where you're going to be given 3 tubes, so it's going to be measured in 3 different locations around your school. I will come to what 3 locations in a moment. And those are the dates that we want the tubes to be hung up from, the 25th of September to the 23rd of October. Anyone who did the campaign last year may realize that those are the exact same dates as last year. They are different days, but it just the way the calendar worked out. And we're going to get to the method now. So this is your equipment pack, which is going to arrive by post. They were posted out today, so from Dublin today. So hopefully they'll arrive. Like some schools might get them tomorrow, especially the ones around Dublin. I'd say the majority will arrive by Friday or Monday or so. If you haven't heard anything, like give it a bit of time, of course. But maybe like check with your school secretary or something. They might be in the office. As you can see, this important box here on the top right, once you get your pack, it's important that you put the 3 tubes into the fridge once you get them until they have to go up. Those tubes pictured here on the top left, they have chemicals inside it, which will then react with the nitrogen dioxide in the air, and they're perishable. So if they can be kept chilled for as long as possible, that would be great. The plastic holders and the cable ties are used to hang your tubes up, which I will go through in a moment. The return envelope, that will have an address on it and it will have prepaid postage. And after the 4 weeks, after the tubes have been up for 4 weeks, we ask you to take them down and send them back to us in that envelope. There's also a printed instruction sheet. It's just like a 1-page cheat sheet. And yeah, our teacher guidelines have very detailed instructions and information and links to all the resources. And like, that's your one-stop shop for everything, versus this printed instruction sheet is kind of like a cheat sheet for how to hang them, what to do, etc. There's also a cloud ID chart, which I will get to in a moment. Sorry. So here are some of the resources available. These will all be linked in the teacher's guide, and most of them are also linked on the website, which I shared a link for in the WhatsApp group and via email. So the lessons, so there's the 2 main PowerPoint presentations. One is an intro to air quality and air pollution, and then the other is specifically about this campaign and how you're going to measure it. Then there's different activities, there's different worksheets. So yeah, so that's all up there. So then for this, here we go. So what do you actually need to do for this campaign? What are the requirements? So it starts with those 2 PowerPoints up the top. They would probably fill about 45 minutes per presentation. Now, of course, you can get the students to research things, or similarly, you can like fly through bits or whatever. But about 45 minutes for each of those presentations, and there are primary and secondary school editions of them. Then you need to decide where to put up your tubes. Like I said, there'll be 3 tubes, and as I've mentioned a few times now, nitrogen dioxide is associated with traffic. So we want the 3 tubes in different locations in terms of how much traffic there is at each of the locations. So we want one like the busiest part of your school. So maybe this is like the car park where like the parents all drive each day to like collect the students. Or maybe your school is beside a really busy road. So we want one of them at the busiest location. We want one in a remote location. So maybe out by like the football pitch or in a garden or the playground or something away from the road. And then the third one kind of somewhere in between, like a moderate level of traffic. You have to, so how do you decide where to put it? We want you to look at a map. I'm going to go through that now. But basically, you put your tubes up, you have to fill in a form, and then you take them down, you fill in a form again. The form, that'll just take like 2 minutes to fill in, but the important thing is that each tube has a unique code on it. I'm going to get through all that now in a minute. So I'll just go on for the moment. So this is the timeline. We are at the teacher training there, which is the second one. Tubes will go up. I've kind of gone through these dates already. But important ones in November during Clean Air Week, we're going to team up with Green Schools Travel. A lot of you might be working with the Green Schools team already, but we're going to do an expert webinar then. That'll be aimed at the students. So that'll be during school time and aimed at the kids. Then we hope to get the results back from the lab about your air quality results early December, hopefully, most likely before Christmas. And we will share them with you as soon as we get them. And then in January, we're going to team up with some other countries around Europe and have a webinar where the students can present their work and their findings. So if you get the results in early December, we would ask you to kind of start working on projects then, if you want. Again, you can take it as far as you want. There's no requirement to do projects, but December and January, we can do some projects and you can present in January. And then 27th of March, that's the deadline for projects submissions to our Globe annual competition for all of our campaigns, which I will again get to later on. So this is what we do. Now, I've kind of mentioned this. So the creative map of our school, I will go through that now in a bit and pick our study sites. So we you need to look at your school grounds to decide the 3 locations. And then we put up the tubes. Then there's these other optional surveys, which again, I will fly through in a moment. And then tubes down, which you then post back is the main thing. And then analyze your results. And then again, we have optional to create a cleaner action plan and share your story, which we will talk about in a moment. So I've kind of gone through this a bit now, but our map, depending on the age and abilities of your students, you might do a really detailed map, or another option is, so yeah, you might draw a really detailed one. It's a nice project, especially another wonderful thing about Globe. I feel like I've mentioned many wonderful things at this stage, but another one is that each of our campaigns has so many different aspects and stuff. So it's not just for like the sciencey, brainy kids. There's all these different things and everyone in the class can get involved. So maybe you have a student who's really into art and they want to draw a map of the school. That's fantastic. If your students are not that way inclined, you can also get a digital map. You can go on Google Maps or Google World, well, Google Earth, sorry, and get an aerial view of your school, and then you can draw the locations of your tubes. So as you can see here, we've like highlighted like the busy road versus like the remote area, and so they've put their tubes 1, 2, and 3. So that's just to keep track of where you're putting them. So then we pick, these are the 3 types I've mentioned. So yeah, try to get like the busiest area you can, the least busy area you can, and then somewhere in between. Putting up our tubes. So as you can see, there's like a little QR code and it has a 6-digit number underneath it. When you are filling in the form saying where you've put them up or whatever, you need those codes. That's so that the lab knows who to send, like what results. Like we will send all the results with, so that the result is associated with your school. So please keep track of those numbers. We will send all the cable ties and holders, and lampposts tend to be kind of good places to put them. Trees are not the best of places to hang them because bugs and spiders and animals and things can get into it. It should be hung like it is in the picture there. So there's a grey cap and a white cap. You take off the white cap and you have that at the bottom. If you have it the other way and the hole's at the top, then rain will get in and it won't be very accurate. And it has to be the white cap you remove because the chemicals are in the grey cap. We stick it up for 4 weeks. And this is the form you fill in. It's a very quick form to fill in, this tubes up form. It's just make sure you have, sorry, it's a 7-digit code. I said 6. Yeah, make sure you fill in them 7 digits. So then they're up and you can leave them and come back in 4 weeks if you want, or you can do other stuff during these 4 weeks. So we have this poster, which you can print out if you want to do all these weather and traffic observations. We provide resources teaching you how to do all of them as well. So I'm going to go through some of them now. So why do we care about any of these? Sorry. Wind, rain, clouds, they can all affect the air quality around your school. So if we carry out some observations and let's say one of your tubes is in a really like it's in a courtyard or something where there's not much ventilation and not much wind, then if there is air pollution in there, it might get really high, versus if it was in a really windy area, it might like blow the pollutants away. So things like that, by doing these observations while the tubes are up, they will then help you to like understand why some results are higher than others, especially our traffic observations, which we'll come to now. You know, we've said to put in the 3 different areas, so we would imagine that the tubes in the highest trafficked area will be worse air quality than the ones in the more remote areas. But sometimes you get some weird results. So like one school got a really high, a really poor air quality in an area that there wasn't much traffic, but then it transpired that there was roadworks going on. So there was a generator there for the 4 weeks. So that generator was releasing the air pollution. As I mentioned, we do some stuff with Green Schools as well. So you may already be doing them if you're working for your Green Schools travel flag, but they have 3 different traffic related surveys, which we have linked on our resources and stuff. So there's the traffic survey, which measures how many cars are there and will help you associate that with your findings. There's the idling survey. So this is if parents are, or buses or whatever, are waiting with their engines turned on and not moving. That is releasing nitrogen dioxide into the air around the school grounds. And then there's travel awareness survey. So again, depends on how far you want to take it. If you want to do a big whole school project and get the whole school involved, fantastic. You can do all these different things. So we link all these resources. Then after your 4 weeks, we want you to take down your tubes. The white caps, I don't think I emphasized this earlier, you will have to put the white caps back on. So what we would recommend when you take them off is if you put them in the envelope, the return envelope that you're going to need at the end of the 4 weeks. If you keep your 3 caps in that envelope, then they'll be there waiting at the end of the 4 weeks. You pop it back on the tube. Last year, I know some people lost their caps, so they put a bit of sellotape over the tube or things like that. And the lab will still give you a result, but it may not be as accurate or as reliable. So try to keep your 3 caps, pop them back in the tube, pop them in the return envelope, and make sure that you fill in our form. So we need the 3 7-digit codes again. And you need the time and date that you put them up and the time and date that you put them down. Your results, which I will say here, your results, you're going to get a number, which is the average nitrogen dioxide value. So the way they calculate that is it depends on how many hours the tube has been exposed to the air. So they need to know the time and date it was put up and time and date it was taken down so that they can calculate the number of hours and can then work out the average nitrogen dioxide value. Yeah. That number then you can compare to the safety guidelines. There's different guidelines depending on whether it's like for a day or for a year, as you can see here. So anything over 25 micrograms per cubic meter of nitrogen dioxide is deemed unsafe, for even if you're just breathing it for a day. And then anything over 10 micrograms per meter cubed is deemed unsafe if you're breathing it every day for like a year. So you can compare your results with that. As I mentioned earlier, we will send like all of the results to everyone. So you'll see like all the schools. So it's a nice project to compare your school to other schools in your county, maybe the other schools nearby. Or also if say you're in a rural location, you could compare to a city location or vice versa. So it's nice to get the students to compare them with other schools and then they can talk about the differences there. So again, I've mentioned these, like what is influencing your results. So this is kind of why we do the traffic and weather observations while the tubes are up, so that we then have those findings to compare and to help understand, to help explain and understand why our results are the way they are and are there things that we can change. Like I've mentioned, like if you're beside a motorway or something, you can't change that, versus if every child is coming in a car by themselves, you could maybe change that. You could do a cycle thing or a walk or a carpool or whatever. So there's some things you can change, there's some things you can't. You can't change the weather, you probably can't change the landscape, but there are certain things that you can change. So then when you've done that, you can do this if you want. Now we love when they do that. This is a fantastic example of an action plan. So how can we improve the air? What things can we do? If you look on that poster there, they've done like wildlife habitats and rainwater planters. So there's like nature-based solutions and things that you can do that improve like the quality of air around the school. So we'd love to see them, and there are guidelines and resources to help you create these clean air action plans. And of course, we are available to help as well. And then we love when we see them followed through. So we've seen some fantastic projects from schools around the country. We've seen parades and, walk on Wednesday school, cycle to school campaigns, planting plants, trees and bushes and things like that. Loads of different things. Even just like poster campaigns and anti-idling stuff, loads of things you can do, which we love to hear about. So if you do anything, like even if it's something that you deem very small, do tell us about it. We love to hear it. So that brings us to step 8, share your story. You can share it with us in any way you want. Scientific posters, reports. We've seen some fantastic songs and raps. Artwork there, like if you're getting the students to do posters or whatever, just send us a picture of them. Videos, loads of things. And then you can submit them to our annual competition, which is a fantastic day out, and it's brilliant for the students to come to. The deadline for the competition for the project entries is the 27th of March, and then the day itself will be in May, date to be confirmed, but probably early May. Last year, I think we had about 130 people at this event, including experts from Med Éireann and the EPA and Law Pro and lots of other places who listened to the students' projects. And the students got up on stage and told us what they did, and it was fantastic. And there was lots of prizes and lots of amazing, innovative work. So we love to hear about them, however big or small they are. Please do keep us in mind if you're doing stuff. And that is that for me. What time we had? I don't know how fast I flew through that. 27 minutes, perfect. We said it would be about half an hour, so perfect. If anyone has any questions, I don't know if there's anything in the chat, or if anyone would like to unmute and ask anything, by all means, please do.
There were a couple of questions in the chat box.
Perfect.
Just one in particular that came up was just the height of the tubes. And I think in our guidelines, we say between 1 to 2 meters. So that's a guideline. And, you know, if you, the tubes, so there's a few things going on there. If you were doing an experiment, an air quality experiment, you would really want it up, you know, around the breathing height, so to speak, depending on your age. That's obviously going to vary. But in some circumstances, depending on where your school is located and what's going on in the local community, people can occasionally interfere with the tubes as well. So you know your school best, so have a think about that. Obviously, you know, if you can't get it into the ideal location, if you know, if you're worried about that, no problem. You can always make a note of it and just let us know. So just do what works best for you. It's always a good idea to link in with the caretaker as well. It's just another comment. Because they're very good and they you know they know the surroundings as well, and they're around the school the most, so they can always give you the heads up if a tube happened to come down in the wind or something like that. So so that's always a really good idea, as well as just telling the school what's going on, like put it into the newsletter, let the parents know, because I think sometimes when people hear that you're actually monitoring air quality outdoors at the school and it's associated with traffic, maybe that's just that little extra, you know, push, maybe not to drive to the school or maybe not to idle at the school. So really good idea to do that. So question just on how large the tubes are, just to make sure there was room in the fridge. And you know, the fridges are always packed in school, so the tubes actually, they're fairly small. They're about how many centimeters would that be? They're probably like, are they about 6 centimeters or so?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're not very big. So you should be able to slide them in somewhere. And just to keep a label on them, just you never know. They have disappeared in fridges as well. So I don't know what they could be confused with, but you know, strange things happen sometimes. What else? Like I suppose as well, if you have any agenda in the school about like thinking about pickup times and where you see the pinch points in traffic, like ask the students about that as well, because that will help direct you on where to put the tubes as well, just like Orla was saying. Sorry, Orla, you're going to jump in there.
Very good. I was just going to say as well, if anything is missing from your pack, if anything has fallen out or anything like that, do let us know, because we've reserved some equipment. So if only 2 tubes show up or anything, please let us know as soon as you can, and we will get another one out to you.
Yeah, and just to check in with the office as well, because sometimes they go missing in the office. It's an A4 envelope and it has the teacher's name that actually signed up for the campaign on the envelope. So it should get to you. But just in case, you know, they just go into the wrong cubby hole or to the bottom of a pile, they should be with everyone, you know, by next week anyway. So
And yeah, Sarah, we can absolutely share the slides as well as the recording. So yeah, we'll send out the recording tomorrow to everyone here and who wasn't here. And yeah, we can share the slides as well, no problem.